All right. Well, welcome today to our first series on money wisdom, making your money work for your home and family. Today's guest is Dylan Tucker, who is also my son. And the purpose of today's interview is to learn about protecting ourselves from both scams and frauds. Dylan currently works at a financial institution in the fraud prevention department. So let's get started. So, Dylan, tell us how would you distinguish between a scam and a fraud?
Yeah, definitely. So they do overlap in a lot of ways, but the main distinction is that with fraud, someone is stealing your information, credit card or
Mhm.
debit card number, account number, or social, and using it um, in order to gain financially without your permission or authorization. A scam, on the other hand, is a dishonest scheme where someone pretends to be someone that they're not to manipulate you into sending them money in some sort of in some capacity.
Okay, sounds like really fraud is I have not participated in scam. I'm participating in some way.
Yes. Yep. So in a scam, you are manipulated into participating. They gain your trust. Use sorry, lots of unfortunate things there go down with scams where fraud is just it was stolen from you in some way
Mm,
without you even realizing it sometimes, and it's definitely without your permission or authorization.
okay, well, let's talk a little bit more, very, very specifically about fraud. So, what are some things I can look for or I can do to protect myself against fraud?
Yeah, so fraud happens in a variety of different ways. So the main three things that I'd focus on are debit cards and credit cards, um, your account number itself, and then your social. So with debit cards or credit cards, typically fraud happens when they skim your card information, and that can be done in a variety of different ways, and there's nothing your bank or credit union can do to prevent it because if someone else gets your card information, they unfortunately have no way to distinguish whether it's you or the fraudster.
Mm,
So the main way that we see uh, debit cards or credit cards getting compromised is at gas pumps, and they use that because the card reader there is not monitored by a real human being. As often as like in store, there's always people around, employees, etc., to monitor. It's hard to take time to hook up a machine, a skimming machine, when someone's right there. So that's why they use gas pumps typically at night, where they put them on there. So when you go to especially new gas stations that you're not used to, everything looks normal and you don't realize it. But as you put in your card, whether it's a debit or a credit card, both either one can get skimmed. They skim your card information, and then they get they typically leave it on there for about 48 hours, and then take that device and make 100, 200 counterfeit cards or run through online transactions. So that's typically how debit and credit cards get scammed. The other way is if you find that your card continuously gets compromised, even though you just recently changed it and it's getting compromised again, and you're like, what's going on? It's always online transactions. Um, the odds are that you most likely have malware on your device. And that could be on there from a number of different ways, but they use malware, which is a virus, and they can track what you're typing, stuff like that. And these people are smart. They get your information and they wait months, sometimes just a couple weeks, sometimes a couple days, to avoid detection. Um, so if that continuously happens, you might need to get your computer checked out, um, just to get that malware taken off.
yeah. So, can that happen on my phone as well?
Absolutely. Yep. It's less likely because the security on your phone, the programming on your phone is just it's harder to write malware for them, and it's just you do a lot more shopping, especially with newer websites on your computer
Right.
um, than on your phone. So it can happen. Yep.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
less likely.
Well, and you mentioned three things: credit, debit cards, social security numbers,
Hmm.
and what I forgot now. What was the third one you said?
Account numbers. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
okay. So talk about account numbers.
yep. So typically a debit card is used to access your checking account. Now, your checking account number can be also be compromised in a number of different ways. Now, the main thing here is don't write checks if you can avoid it, and especially do not write checks and then put them in the mail.
Mhm.
I will say that statistically speaking, there is a higher uh, dollar amount per transaction of check fraud than there is on a debit or credit card.
Wow.
Um, the,
Wow.
oth- the other thing is that with debit or credit cards, they're typically issued through Visa or MasterCard, which have zero fraud liability for their consumers. With accounts, it's very difficult, even if your bank has a good fraud prevention system, it's very difficult for them to say that check, it looks like it was signed by you. If someone knows your signature, it's difficult. And on with a check on one piece of paper, you're giving someone your routing and account number, your name and address, sometimes your phone number, your handwriting, and your signature on
Mhm.
one document. So if you have to write a check, do it as infrequently as possible. And when you do, and if you have to mail it, especially, take it to the post office. There are also a lot of institutions have bill pay where they will mail a check on your behalf so that you don't even have to worry about that security piece. Did
All
you have
right.
any
And then
questions?
social security numbers, that's probably out of your expertise, but do you have anything you could suggest?
The main thing is to use your social is be careful about who you give it to.
Mhm.
Your bank, your credit union, financial institutions, they need your social. A lot of people are like, no, I'm not going to give it up. Well, unfortunately, that's the only way to identify. So it is a necessary thing where you have to give it up in certain situations, but they should have security measures to prevent it from getting out.
You bet.
Now we have seen in recent years an increase in data breaches at Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, and a lot of those translated to unemployment fraud was one of the
Mhm.
bigger things where people
Right.
use your social security number, applied for unemployment under your name, and then had them send the check to them. So with that, monitor your credit score. Even if you don't have any debt, monitor your credit score because if someone applies for credit under your name, it'll pop up there. The other thing that I do is I've frozen my credit with TransUnion, all three credit bureaus. And then if I need to open a new bank account, I can unfreeze it for a day and then refreeze it. And I can actually do that where it's scheduled. So I can schedule it to be
Mhm.
unfrozen for the 14th and 15th of June. And then after that, besides that, it's refrozen. And I get alerts anytime my someone tries to use my social. Every alert that I've gotten so far, it's been me when I was added to my wife's account. But at least I'm alerted to it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's good information. I always recommend to my families too, because when they have children, all children have social security numbers for different reasons. But they need to freeze that too, theirs
mhm,
too, or be checking those reports. So,
yep.
because most, children aren't employed for a while, so you wouldn't even know what was going on using their card. All right, well, thank you. Let's briefly look at scams. We've already discussed we could do a whole show or just a conversation about scams, but just briefly talk about scams and how we can protect ourselves from that.
Yeah. So the main thing about scams is that they are a dishonest scheme where someone
Mhm.
is going to use names that you trust to get you to send them money. They are not fraud because they aren't stealing your information. They're using you to use your own funds to send them money, if that makes sense. And there are a variety of scams out there. We've seen romance scams where online dating, someone pretends to be a
Mm.
young girl and they say, "Oh, before we go to dinner, I just need money," or "Oh, I got into a car accident. Now I'm in the hospital. I need $50,000." Unfortunately, people do send money. You from the outside, you say, "Oh, that's why would you ever send someone that much money?" But when you're in love or think that you're in love, it really these people are they're professionals. It's what they do for a living. They're very convincing. The most common scams that we see are refund scams. People call from Microsoft or Amazon. They'll say that they're calling from the refund department, which makes no sense whatsoever. And then they say, "Oh, since you are no longer using our service, you're entitled to a refund of $300." They get you to log into your bank account while they're connected to your computer. So first of all, you never have to log into your online banking to get a refund ever, ever. That's not a thing. They can always if there is a refund, a real refund, they can just put it back on the card. They don't need your information to do that. So what they do is they get you to log in, and they edit the code on the web page to make it look like they refunded you for $1,000 and then say, "Oh, no, we accidentally typed in 4,000 instead of 400. I'm going to lose my job because I accidentally sent you too much money. Can you please return the $3,600?" And unfortunately, a lot of people, "Oh, no, I don't want you to lose your job because then you can't feed your family. I'll go to Best Buy or the grocery store, where Target, wherever, and buy gift cards." That's the manipulation piece, is that they convince you that A, they didn't refund you any money, and then B, they say you have to send it back to us. Otherwise, I'm going to lose my job. Now, when you go to the store to buy gift cards A are
Mhm.
never a form of payment. What's odd is that Microsoft will ask for Google Play cards. That there's a disconnect there, right? Because it's two separate companies.
But you're saying
Um,
if the caller identified themselves with Microsoft,
yep,
but then
yep,
they asked for a Google Play card. Okay.
exactly. Yeah. So um, anyway, when you go to the store and when you buy gift cards,
Mhm.
in the eyes of the bank, you made that transaction. It is not fraud because no one stole your information. Someone else is stealing the money from those gift cards, but unfortunately, there's nothing the bank can do to protect that. So you need to be aware of these schemes. Anytime someone says, "Oh, you owe us a or oh, you owe we gave you too much money," just hang up or don't answer the phone to begin with. But hang up. N know that scams are out there and that people are gonna pretend to be someone that they're not.
Mhm.
The main
And
thing is to always call the number that you know. If someone, calls you saying that they're from your bank, say, "Just to make sure, I'm gonna hang up, and I'm gonna call the 24-hour customer service number that's located on the back of your debit or credit card." 'Cause they can't change that, right? They can't make that
Mhm.
into a fake number. They might even be calling from that number because they've spoofed it to make it look like they have. So scammers will always say, "No, don't call me. I will call you," because they're spoofing a number as well. So always call the number that you have. Do not let them, convince you that there's someone that they aren't.
Well, and I would say if you do answer the phone, generally Microsoft or Amazon's not going to call me.
That too. Yep.
Yeah. So if it doesn't make sense or feels wrong in your gut, it probably is.
Yep.
Yeah. So good advice on that. Yeah. What else do you have for us as far as just protection? Just one general thing to protect ourselves, or a couple of ideas against scams?
Yeah, so just take a second before you send money,
Mm.
whatever the case may be. Take a minute. It's okay to be patient before sending money. We see a lot of situations that could have been prevented if we had taken a few more minutes. The customer typically had taken a few more minutes to think about what they were doing or took a few minutes to double check who they were sending the money to.
Mm.
Oftentimes, they're expecting to send hundreds of thousands of dollars for a home closing. They know they're supposed to be sending out $200,000, and someone swoops in and claims to be the title company, and then you just sent your life savings to the wrong person, and
Mm.
there's no recovery there. And that
Wow.
could have been prevented if we took a step and called the title company directly to verify wire information. If we called a loved one, you can always you should be able to trust your family. You can even call your bank. A lot of banks, unfortunately, have dealt with scams. They can verify whether or not it's a scam. So just tell and be honest. Don't try to hide anything. And there's nothing to be embarrassed about, because, like I said, these scammers are professionals. They're very convincing.
Mhm. Yeah.
So take a minute, verify in some capacity. Um, I've told my parents they can always call me if they have a question about something. My wife calls me if she has a question. Um, or I tell customers all the time, just call this number, call me, and I can talk you through it. I can ask the right questions to determine whether or not this is a
Yeah.
scam.
It's hard for me to call them professionals, but I guess that what you're saying is that they know what they're doing. They've
They make
practiced it. It's
Yes.
a science,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll dig deeper into that next time. But thank you so much, Dylan. We appreciate your time, and all of you make sure that you are protecting yourself in all the ways that you can. So thanks for listening in today. Thank you. Bye bye.